What's up, guys, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the NeoVintage podcast. I'm Jabril, and I am with
Steve. How you guys doing?
And for you guys who have never seen the show before, we're just two guys that like to talk over the biggest stories in gaming, but we always like to start with what we've been playing. So, Steve, let me know what you've been playing.
So yeah, changed it up. I took a break from my weird Persona nonsense I was doing.
All the games at the same time.
Playing all the Persona games at once. To prepare for Hitman 3 coming out very soon. I think the 20th. So like 3 days from recording this. For Hitman, so I replayed Hitman 1 and 2. I don't think I ever even played 2 because all the trophies were popping like I've never played it. So I may have never even played Hitman 2.
You're talking about the newer, like
the new Hitman, right? The new Hitman, the IO trilogy, the World of Assassination trilogy.
Great game.
And I remember liking the first one, but I think I played it when it was like coming out episodically and stuff like that. So I must have dropped off. But playing it just like in one shot. And I know that's not how the games are supposed to be played. I know it's supposed to be more open, and I'm, open and stuff. And I did replay some levels to get some like extra challenges, but the story is really cool. I really like it. I like the connections to the past games, and just the mechanic of that game in general, where it's like, well, here's this giant. Some of these maps are huge, and it's like, yeah, kill these guys however you feel, however you feel like it. So it's fun to go in there, and what a quirky but yet serious game. Like, I strangled somebody as a giant flamingo mascot. I think that's in number 2. But the first one, just every mechanic works so well. In a game in a time where we don't really get that many like pure stealth games. Because you really can't just run and gun in this game.
No.
You could try. I don't know how far you'll make it. But it's just really interesting. It's really cool. I've always played Hitman games on and off, all those Absolution, Blood Money, and all those ones, but this one really fits it, and was really happy. I was just completely vibing with it. Then I got into Hitman 2, which continues the storyline the first one ends off kind of on a cliffhanger. Luckily, the second one was like on sale for $9.99 or $12.99, and I was like, yeah, why not? Snagged it. It combines all the levels, so all your levels from Hitman 1 move into Hitman 2. And from my understanding, that will work for Hitman 3 as well. So when I get Hitman 3, I'll have literally all 3 game level-wise with, the newer mechanics and stuff like that, so I can go back and try different things. But the game's just so jam-packed with content, and I kind of wish I got to it earlier so I can do some of this stuff, like the sniper missions, the pure sniper missions, and trying to get in there, get all the because we love our checklist kind of game. So
definitely,
when they just tell you, well, do it this way, and I start thinking, oh, I'll just disguise myself as this guy, and that opens its own storyline into what it's doing to then connect me to my assassination target. It's wild. Those games are fantastic. I'm excited to see where 3 goes, especially story-wise, especially since the kind of the end of what they're calling the World of Assassination trilogy, and to see where the series goes from there on. Because from my understanding, Hitman 3 is the first one not to be episodic. From my remembering, 1 and 2 were.
Yeah, they were.
But they said that this won't be the last Hitman game they make because they have the IP and stuff like that, and we know they're working on that 007 and stuff. So I've just been spending a lot of time with the Hitman. I completed it. I'm done with 1 and 2. I'm kind of just dabbling in there, popping trophies, and just seeing some of the ridiculous stuff I can get away with, and to see how I can do it. So that's been the more serious game. The other 2 games I've been playing have been purely for fun. So the other one is Maneater. The PS Plus for PS5 this game, the shark game. Yeah. That's the free game for PS5 this month on PS Plus. Let me tell you, what an amazing game that is.
Is it really? Wow.
It's if you haven't downloaded, I would give it a shot. There's something there's something wild about it where it's so funny. It doesn't take itself serious at all, but the game it runs very smooth. It's like really rad. It's like really cool. Obviously, it's a story where you're playing as a small shark trying to get to a big shark and stuff like that. But it's an open world. There's tons of collectibles, tons of side missions. On top of the main mission, there's a somewhat sort of like a crime thing. So when you start like causing a lot of havoc, eating humans. Instead of like police showing up, you're getting hunters showing up, and as you kill these hunters, like bigger hunters come. So there's like I'm trying to think of the best way is like think of like a crime family type deal. You get all these weak hunters, and you got to work your way up the tree until you get to the big guy who he kills the mama shark, and then you're the baby shark. Not a real spoiler. The lore of Maneater, but it's really fun, and especially as a free game. This is a game I kind of wanted to get when it released, but I heard it didn't work too well on PS4 at the time, and it works completely great on PS5. It looks good and everything like that. It runs super smooth. Loading times are quick, but it's just, I think it's a game everyone should just try out as a fun little, not really throwaway game, because I'm enjoying myself. I jump in there, I get some collectibles, terrorize some people, and just, you level up. You got to get your different, mechanics if you want your bite to be a little bit more electrifying, if you want it to be a little bit more poison, a little bit more strength. It's a really well done game for what I thought was just going to be, I don't know, spamming a button just to eat people. You have to plan your attacks out right. The alligators start fighting you. They bite you. They start doing that terrifying spinning thing. It's just wild. I think you would actually enjoy this game, especially since you have it on PS Plus.
Yeah,
technically.
I'm gonna try it out.
I would definitely just suggest it and just be like, on an afternoon you got nothing to do. I think you'll kind of vibe with it. I like to put a podcast on too and kind of just go through it, because the story's not that engaging, but it's actually really good. I'm really enjoying it. It's kind of been my thing. I'll make a cup of coffee, put the Maneater on, I'll put an album or a podcast I'm listening to, and I'm just having a great time. Really good game. Great jobs to those guys. I don't know what they did before, but this game's definitely great. And obviously the last game I've been playing, where most of my time's been going since Thursday, Scott Pilgrim versus the World, the game, the complete edition. It's finally out, Jabril. We're satisfied, sort of. I got my pre-order for my physical.
Me too. Yeah.
Super excited, but obviously I wasn't gonna wait for the physical to come in. I've been playing it. I've only been playing the first couple levels because I'm trying to. I kind of want my wife to play with me, so I have to go back as like a different character to strengthen them up, because I don't remember starting the game off so weak. Like, I'm dying constantly and stuff like that. So I don't know if it was just my mechanic. Now I've kind of clicked with the game again, and just everything about this game, from the sprite work to the music to the quirkiness to all the Easter egg from to the series / movie. It's just what a fantastic game. We've praised this game so much. It's one of our first gameplays we did on this channel.
Yeah, early.
Very early, and because we love this game, we wanted the game to come back, and sure enough, it's back, and I can't get enough of it. So those are just what I've been playing. This is what kind of been just spending my time with. What have you been playing?
Yeah, so I feel like I come in every week with some absolute nonsense that I'm always playing every single week. So, as you know, I kind of grind out GTA 5 almost daily at this point. And it's just, I go in 30 minutes an hour, just do my thing, make some money. It is what it is. And so I'm like, I've been playing a lot of GTA 5. It's time to take a little bit of a break. Not so much that I'm going to stop playing it, but just introduce something a little different into my arsenal. So I pick up, obviously, a cheap copy of GTA 4. And I was like, let's jump into that one as somehow a palate cleanser. And so I've been playing that on Xbox because they do a great job with backwards compatibility. Found a really cheap copy that was almost mint. So I'm excited to have that. And I'm just having a really, really good time with it. Now, obviously, some of the mechanics are very janky. Specifically, the driving is awful. But other than that, it's a really, really strong game. And it did remind me of the fact that I do vastly prefer the story of GTA 4 over 5. 5 is just tone-wise so different. Again, when you're in that kind of California environment, it's a lot of heists and tech startups and weird situations with nightclubs and yachts and all this kind of crazy over-the-top stuff. Where this one's a lot grimier in Liberty City and stuff like that. And Nico it's from literally starting from the bottom, grinding, poor taxi service guy to working his way up into, and as you get more money and you get deeper into the story, the nature of where you're playing in the map changes. So you start out in this kind of rundown, kind of Bronxy looking area, and then you work your way into more of a Spanish Harlem type situation, and then eventually you're in what looks more like a Brooklyn or a Manhattan. So you kind of work your way through obviously what is New York, and then obviously they have areas that look a little bit more like Queens, areas that look a little bit more like Bronx and stuff like that. So right now I've moved a little bit deeper into the city, and I'm probably 40% through the story or something like that, but I'm having a really good time with that, and that's been a nice refresher for me. Playing that on Xbox. But yeah, pretty much throughout, other than GTA, the 2 GTAs, I've been dabbling in Scott Pilgrim. Haven't really gotten too deep to report anything new other than the fact that it's phenomenal, and I really recommend anybody get it. I got it on Switch, only $15, so that's an amazing price for it. So for anyone who's looking for a new beat 'em up or something to play, first off, some of the best sprite art I've seen in years.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, just the animations are phenomenal. The gameplay is really, really strong. If you have any worries about like whether it holds up or not, this specific genre to me, I think ages phenomenally. Obviously, this art style does as well. So there is no feeling difference from what you like if you went from like River City Girls to this. Like, I don't think it feels any older or jankier or anything like that. I think it ages really, really well. So for anybody who has any reservations maybe about this, about like, oh, this is a re-release, is this an old game, does it feel bad or anything like that? Nope. If you didn't know it was an older game, I don't think you would ever really be able to tell, to be honest. So highly recommend it. Great price proposition. And if I have to throw another suggestion out there, get a physical. They're not that expensive. They have like a $35 version that's going to ship eventually, and you'll just have a little physical version to put in your collectors, because you and I have PTSD from what they did the first time. So we need that physical version just as insurance. Then again, though, having physical versions nowadays doesn't necessarily guarantee anything, because they've done weird things to them too. But that's pretty much what I've been playing. Just being trash like I always am, and playing old weird games from the 360 era for some reason.
Hey, that's one of the selling points of the Xbox, is play those old games better. And GTA, it's funny that you mentioned it, because I've been watching a couple of videos on GTA 4, because that's the GTA that I didn't purposely skip. I didn't have a console when that released, so I know very little. I know the whole Cousin Nico thing. I know being asked to go bowling a lot. I know like that's really my thing. Is like I spent one weekend years ago when my brother had a 360. So it's funny, because that's a game I've been kind of wanting to go, because I feel like for culture reasons, before we move on to eventually we'll get GTA 6 in some format, I kind of need, I want to like play that one.
It's really solid. Like,
yeah,
the problem is like ranking it is kind of weird in the GTA franchise, because it has really, really strong competitors. Like, obviously when you're talking like Vice City and San Andreas, with exception for how obviously aged they feel, those worlds are just, hard to beat. And GTA 5 is so expansive and over the top. But GTA 4, to me, I feel like, first off, the world feels more alive than almost any of them. Personally, just the NPCs, the cops, like the cop will walk by on his phone, and the weird conversations you encounter, the different shops you can go into. The AI is, to me, a little bit more responsive than some of the other entries. So there's a lot of great things about 4 that I feel like over time, because of the spectacle of 5 and how classic Vice City and San Andreas are, it goes a little overlooked. So I highly recommend it.
Yeah, and very cheap too. I gotta check out the DLCs too, because people praise those.
Oh yeah, Lost and
Ballad of Gay Tony and Lost and Damned, I heard, are fantastic. Like, some people even like those better than the main game. So those are definitely things I have to check out soon.
Yeah, I fully intend on jumping into those as soon as I finish Nico's story, just to get a little bit more out of it, as long as they're priced appropriately, because I do bump into the thing sometimes where you'll find a really cheap copy of like a 360 era game, because they're all like literally worthless in terms of price. If you go online, there's like no demand for them, which is awesome. So you're able to get super cheap versions of the game, but then sometimes you have to buy the DLC digitally. And if you go onto the web store, it's like way more than it should be sometimes. But sometimes they'll be pricing a full DLC like $15-$20. I'm like, are you crazy? This is from 2008. Like, I'm not buying that. But I probably, as long as it's priced decently, I fully intend on continuing the journey there, because I know how good they are. And if I'm enjoying 4, Ballad of Gay Tony and Lost and Damned are still, to this day, I think, for me personally, almost the height of GTA. Vice City is very close, and San Andreas obviously too, but those are hot. I think all of those things are probably better than 5 technically, even though 5 is the best looking and the best feeling GTA. I think the soul of those put it over the edge for me.
Okay, definitely. I'll check them out soon.
So I guess we can move into the stories. We got 4 of them today, so this is going to be a fun show. So the first one we have is something that I don't know if anyone saw coming. But Bethesda announced the upcoming Indiana Jones game in 2021 for some reason. So Wolfenstein developer Machine Games is working on an Indiana Jones game that will be published by Bethesda. So the announcement came of a teaser video posted to the publisher, and the game will tell an original standalone story that is focused on Indiana Jones himself at the height of his career. So a new Indiana Jones game came with an original story and is in development from our studio Machine Games and will be executive produced by Todd Howard. So it seems like they're taking this pretty seriously. It's in collaboration with Lucasfilm Games, which we'll talk more about later. And Bethesda said in its announcement, it'll be some time before we have more to reveal, but we're very excited to share today's news. So this might be kind of like early look at the game. But in his own statement, Disney said that the game will tell a wholly original standalone tale at the height of his career of the famed adventurer. So this is very interesting. And obviously a lot of people made the comparison that, hey, if we're getting a big budget Indiana Jones game, this is kind of Bethesda's opportunity, or specifically Xbox's opportunity, to have an Uncharted competitor in their stable. And obviously at one point, you know, the Uncharted competitor would have been something like a Tomb Raider, for example. But this gives them a chance to kind of tackle that at a big budget. But everybody is obviously wondering, what can they do at this point that Uncharted hasn't done at the pretty much highest possible level? I do like me some Indiana Jones. I like the old movies. I don't know how I feel about a game. Steve, what's your thoughts when you heard this story?
So I had a overwhelming confusion because of everything that was going on. So I've seen the original 2 Indiana Jones movies, and that I saw the original 2, and then I saw one with Shia LaBeouf, which I don't remember.
The fourth
which
one,
is yeah. So I've always enjoyed it. I thought it was cool. I was, you know, I like Harrison Ford and stuff like that. But I've never been like a super fanboy. You know, it's like kind of Ghostbusters to me, where I'm like, cool. I like Ghostbusters, gotcha. But I'm not like die hard want to wear this stuff for you know, Halloween and things like. So I was like, wow, what a random title. But I was like, oh, initially I was like, oh, makes sense. Then I started looking at it, but I'm like, you know, Uncharted is based off Indiana Jones, obviously. I don't even think they've hid that fact.
Yeah.
The new Tomb Raider is based off Uncharted, which is based off Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
So now you're going to get an Indiana Jones game, which is going to be based off, you know, not based off, but, you know, inspired by Uncharted and Tomb Raider. I mean, you have to be.
Full circle, yeah.
So it's coming full circle. So really weird. I'm excited to see Machine Games do it, because these guys are, you know, the last couple games we got from them are just first-person Wolfenstein, you know, first-person shooters. And this is not going to be a first-person shooter. I assume it's going to be a third-person action game. And I'm not worried about them doing it. Guerrilla did fantastic switching over. So we've seen people switch over. I've seen that kind of worry people. I don't think that you should worry about that. People, you know, companies have switched over. Bethesda's big enough. And maybe not with that Xbox money, they may be able to have some even more help transferring, you know, depending on what engine they're using and stuff like that. So it's interesting. My worry is, what experience is this going to give me or anyone that we haven't already had? You know, is it going to be way more puzzle based than what like Tomb Raider? Because Uncharted is a little bit more action based, slightly more platforming. Tomb Raider morphed more into like open world sections and stuff like that. Where in the middle does Indiana Jones fit? It is my kind of worry for that. I just don't see what is this going to do to make it feel like an Indiana Jones game?
Yeah, those first 2 Tomb Raiders, I feel like tone-wise would be probably the most similar analog that we have at this point. Because again, that adventure-y aspect of it, with that weird supernatural tinge, is something I feel like they've all tapped into. All 3 of these properties. So yeah, it's a very interesting direction for them to go. It also, I mean, I guess is worth noting that I believe another movie is on the way too, a 5th Indiana Jones. That's kind of been, I wouldn't say development hell, but it's been tossed around for quite some time now. And I'm pretty sure to some degree Harrison Ford is involved with it as well. So it seems like this kind of comes in conjunction with some kind of Indiana Jones resurgence. It's not going to be a tie-in by any means, obviously. But maybe they're going to try to Mad Max it a little bit. If you remember where like there was that Mad Max game. That was really excellent.
Road.
Yeah, and the movie and they all kind of came around the same time. They weren't tie-ins, but it was kind of an opportunity to kind of bring that property back, if you will. And both of them, and then at the time, I mean, Mad Max was kind of a dead property. Now, the success of them bringing it back, I mean, that's up for debate. But it seems like if if anything, they're going to try to do a multimedia approach to try to bring back Indiana Jones in some capacity. I don't know ultimately how this is going to succeed because I don't know the demand levels for Indiana Jones, especially specifically with younger populations who...
Yeah.
I mean, the last movie that came out, again, was Kingdom of the Crystal Skull with Shia LaBeouf, and it was awful. So, it's very much a classic property. To me, it's more in line. You see, I was going to say Jurassic Park, but even that has modern analogs that people can pull from.
Yeah, the new...
To some degree, we're good. Not everybody loves them, but generally speaking, we're decently received. So it's hard to find something to compare it to. And but I have faith in the teams. Again, if Bethesda's involved through the Xbox by proxy, it's going to get a good budget. Machine Games are an incredibly talented team, so it's not like I have any reason to believe that there's going to be some, super weird licensed trash. So it seems like they're going to do it right. So I have faith in it.
Yeah, again, I'm sure there's a few things that we just have to, not us, but, they have to get over. Harrison Ford, I highly doubt is going to be involved in this. And so you're going to get a slight Avengers feel where you hear the Avengers, but not really. You're like, bootleg looking Avengers. You're going to get an actor who isn't Harrison Ford. And from my understanding, I think besides the old TV show, Harrison Ford's always played Indy. So I think that's going to be a little jarring at first, especially for like the older diehard fans. I'm sure the younger crew won't be, because of Indiana Jones' sort of quietness for so long. MCU was so popular when Avengers came, so that hurt it a little bit. But I think this may be fine. I won't care too much.
It's just going to be Nolan North. You know it. I could put money down. It's going to be Nolan North.
It probably. Him and Troy Baker probably.
Him or Troy Baker, it has to be one of those two.
Him, Troy Baker, and Laura Bailey will be in this game. One of them will be in this
Laura Bailey's going to be Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Confirmed.
So it's interesting. We have to just see where this kind of lands, where it is. We have to see, because the announcing of this is really weird. It's very Bethesda to announce a game years before it releases.
Skyrim syndrome, Elder Scrolls 6 syndrome. Starfield. I think, and I was having a debate. Not debate, but I saw someone mention it online on the comments, and I don't know why I responded to a YouTube comment. And they're like, well, you think this will be an Xbox exclusive? Yeah. It's so hard to predict. I don't know the nature of the relationship.
Yeah, because so the theory I was watching and I commented on is that they announced this game so early because this is something might have already been in the works, and this will be because you got to remember the Bethesda Microsoft deal has not been finalized. No. So they think this might be something that, we have to announce it now because it's before the exclusivity deals and stuff like that. I don't know. I think it's just Bethesda doing Bethesda. They just like to announce 100 games. So I'm curious. I don't care. Obviously, it's gonna be on PC as well. I have my Xbox Series. I'm just curious. I'm just more curious. I'm like, I wonder if it'll be exclusive. Is this gonna be I think it'd be nice for Xbox to have that exclusivity for this.
Yeah, and it's just weird because it doesn't seem like Xbox is demanding exclusivity from anyone, pretty much. I mean,
yeah.
If it's not direct first party, and even some of those, I mean, everything's making it to PC, and some things they don't have a problem with a multi-platform release. So if exclusivity comes from anywhere, maybe Bethesda pushed for it, but I don't get really the incentive for them to do that either. So obviously Xbox has an exclusives problem, but it doesn't seem like a problem that they're interested in remedying. So I don't necessarily see that changing with Bethesda, if anything. So, I mean, I think we're more likely to see exclusives from like an Obsidian before we see exclusives from like somebody massive like Bethesda. Yeah. But I always assumed that there's smaller properties like some and small in quotes like the Wolfensteins, maybe like this Indiana Jones games would be the games to get exclusivity. So they would never do an exclusive kind of Elder Scrolls situation. That's never happening.
Yeah, Fallout, all that stuff.
Yeah, the big boys, the Bethesda Game Studios games, maybe Starfield and stuff like that, they're coming everywhere, especially PC and stuff like that. But maybe the smaller things, they'll maybe throw Xbox a bone here and there. And it's like, here, you hold on to this one. It'll give maybe some people an incentive to kind of come to your platform. I don't know if any of these IPs are necessarily system sellers, but it might be enough to motivate some people to spend some more time in the Xbox ecosystem. So we'll see. But again, it's one of those things that are kind of a big question mark as to what this even is. Are they part of the Xbox family or not? Is there going to be exclusivity or not? Are they interested in exclusivity? I don't know.
Yeah. And depending when this game comes out, it might be the right time. Tomb Raider is gone right now with its trilogy that Square did. Uncharted is over, even though there's rumors that the fifth one was, or the other Uncharted was in the works, might have been canceled. A lot of weird rumors out of that Sony studio that was announced over there. But so maybe this will come and eat the lunch that no one's attending.
Yeah, maybe.
All right. So some other exciting news. It was a popular week. I was excited for this week. Ubisoft has announced it is partnering with Lucasfilm Games on a new Star Wars game. The development effort will be led by Massive Entertainment, the studio behind the Division series. Although little is known about the game, it has been described as a new story-driven, open-world Star Wars adventure. Also, EA released a statement about its future with the Star Wars brand following today's news that Ubisoft will be working on a brand new Star Wars game with the newly formed Lucasfilm Games. So Lucasfilm Games is now the relaunch of the gaming arm for anything that they own. So the Star Wars games, the indie games, all those things that are now going to be coming out will be under that new arm. Which we got that announcement Monday, then we got the Star Wars news, then we got the Indiana Jones news. So it was obviously planned out. What a weirdly, but planned out. So EA has announced that we are proud of our long-standing collaboration with Lucasfilm Games, which will continue for years to come. EA said in a statement, "Our talented teams have created some of the most successful games in the history of the Star Wars franchise, including Jedi Fallen Order, Battlefront, Galaxy of Heroes," which is a mobile iPhone game, Star Wars Squadrons. We love Star Wars and look forward to creating more exciting experiences for players to enjoy. So Disney's relationship with EA is far from over. Also, Star Wars games will now be brought together under a single banner, Lucasfilm Games. Announced today on StarWars.com, the company revealed that Lucasfilm Games is now the official identity for all the gaming titles from Lucasfilm, a name that encompasses the company's rich catalog of video game and eyes toward the future. So, a lot of mixed messaging because there was some weird stuff. Preempted. EA and Disney signed a deal back, I want to say 2014, 15? 2013. Yeah, prior to the sequel trilogy to start, that EA was going to be the exclusive makers of anything Star Wars, and that was, a rough time when that was announced. When Battlefront 1 came out, that was even more rougher. So, what do you take of this?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of news.
It's so much to unpack. Yeah, I don't know where to start.
Yeah, well, I'll say first and foremost, the biggest thing for me was the fact that Ubisoft announced that game is coming, which signals the end of that exclusivity deal, which is I'm ecstatic about. And again, I'm not mad at EA being able to make Star Wars game. I've just taken tremendous issue with that exclusivity deal that Disney signed. To me, that's such a stupid decision to allow a single publisher, and of all publishers, EA, to make all the Star Wars games for that many years in a row. I mean, it just, for me, with the exception for Fallen Order, just kind of killed everything. It was just a ton of wasted time. The Battlefront games, I understand they have their fan base. They're super unremarkable to me. Squadrons is fine. Fallen Order was great, but it's like, I mean, just think about if they had maybe some licensing and some marketing deals with EA, but other people are allowed to make it. Like all the awesome things we could have gotten from like the indie sector, like maybe Devolver Digital could have thrown their hands into and did some smaller scale stuff, and we could have got some AAA stuff, and it's just so many awesome things that we could have gotten in all this time. So I'm so glad that exclusivity deal is done, and I look forward to Fallen Order 2 and stuff like that out of EA, because I love me some Fallen Order. That game's phenomenal. So it's not like I don't want EA touching it at all. But I would love to see what Ubisoft can do. Not to mention, I like Division 2 quite a bit. So if they can do a kind of cover-based shooter in the style of like maybe like the Rebels versus Empire on a simple level, maybe they could do like a bounty hunter type game and stuff like that too. So there's lots of opportunities for them to tackle different eras and subjects and battle styles within the Star Wars universe that I think are pretty exciting. And the Lucasfilm Games thing, I think, makes a lot of sense. I think united branding has been happening kind of across the board in many different media sectors. Everybody trying to unite it below this single brand. And I feel like this in many ways is kind of like the ripple effect of the MCU, because we've seen it kind of happening with Star Wars' branding specifically, and DC's done it, and the splash screen, Sony's done it with their new PlayStation Games thing. So like everybody's trying to unite their platform to wherever you can see like all these different types of media all coming from this single source of the single name that you can kind of attribute it all to, instead of having this kind of disjointed approach and different things. So it makes a lot of sense that why they would go through it, especially I feel like now that the exclusivity deal is done and you're going to have Star Wars properties coming from multiple publishers, it helps to kind of have that single thing to kind of unite it all together. And you know how Star Wars is with their continuity specifically. Mm-hmm. So it makes sense for them to already have that oversight, but to kind of have the branding to kind of go hand in hand with that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to everything I heard here, and I know some people have some problems with Ubisoft. I actually, if you list out the stuff that Ubisoft releases, I actually quite like a lot of what Ubisoft does. So I have no doubt that, and I understand it's not for everybody. Not everybody likes that checklisty, and some people think that Ubisoft's a little Division's a little grindy, and the enemies are a little spongy. I kind of like their style. So this game, I'm sure I'm gonna love. So everything is good news from this story that I've heard.
Yeah, Ubisoft and open world just go hand in hand. So it's super excited for that. I'm glad they. I had to go down a rabbit hole because I was curious, because Ubisoft did come out and said the game won't release before 2023, meaning it's early in development.
Yeah.
For those, the deal that EA originally signed in 2013, I had to look it up, was signed for a 10-year deal, which means 2023 would be the end of that deal. So that original agreement is still in place.
Gotcha.
Which is, so Ubisoft literally can't release that game until sometime after that. Which means we may still get some. I mean, Jedi Fallen Order will probably get a sequel or at least another game from them.
Definitely.
So that would be something that would hold us off, because I doubt we're not getting a Star Wars game for 2 to 3 years. So
it is EA.
It is EA. In all this time, they've only given us 4. So, 2 Battlefronts, Squadrons, and Jedi Fallen. I don't count the mobile games.
So in 7 years, they've given us 4 games, 3 of which are mid.
Yeah. Yep. Jedi Fallen, Battlefront 2 came out with, which now it's fine, but still. Jedi Fallen Order is really the only one that was really held high. Well, and, Squadrons 2 as well, but again, that's...
Yeah, for those who like that, yeah. It was a smaller title, so...
Yeah, it was a smaller title, which I think shows that this is what we want. I'd rather have a few smaller Star Wars experiences.
100%.
So, it's exciting to see what's going to come from it. I'm excited to see who else is going to kind of get on there, because Star Wars, people love Star Wars. I mean, I love Star Wars. So... It's exciting to see what's going to go on. This EA deal killed 2 really popular Star Wars games that were in development. And it's sad that we're never going to get 1313.
Yeah.
That game was almost done from what people have been saying, and the stuff that's slowly leaked. There was Amy Hennings, who worked on the original Uncharted. She had her game. I don't remember. I forgot what the code name was, but Ragdoll or Rag something.
Rag Team or something. Yeah.
Rag Team or something like that.
Tag.
Something like, I forgot. I forget, but her game, which would have been really cool. This EA deal killed those 2 games, unfortunately. So it's sad that we're not going to get those. But maybe we'll get a sort of re-envision of what these people were working really hard on. So I think this should be a start of something new. I do think this is... I think EA should start letting go of certain IPs. I'm not a big sports fan, but I know I watch what EA does with like Madden and stuff, and the terrible stuff they do over there. So it's time that this exclusivity stuff starts kind of letting loose, especially when it's not something you own.
It's just why Disney, with such a massive franchise as Star Wars, would sign a 10-year exclusivity deal with a single game publisher makes no sense to me. Like, I just don't
them of all people.
How much money makes that worth it? Like, I don't think EA could afford the rights to that. Like, it's just nuts to me. So
you think they would have went to Activision, which would have been?
Yeah. That would have made a lot more sense.
Better, but it would have made more sense because of how many teams Activision has.
Exactly, the diversity of teams. You funnel them all through like DICE. They eventually obviously had Respawn and stuff like that, which is great. But it's like, come on, guys, like. I don't know. But to me, Battlefront would be way better in the hands of a Ubisoft, for example, by Massive. Yeah. Which would, to me, make a way more accurate. Like, if you go to, like, the PS2 era Battlefront, the natural evolution to that, specifically that battle style, would be way more close to what Massive would be doing than anything DICE is doing. Though I like DICE. I think the Battlefront games play good. There's just not much there for them. So, and I think Ubisoft's good at putting enough content to keep you busy and justifying the cost of things. I don't think they take people's money for granted so much as a lot of other publishers do. It's like whether you might not like what they give you, but they're giving you enough of it. Far Cry's, they all give you enough of it. So I'm excited about this deal. But again, it's good that you noted 2023 is going to be the date. So we're going to have a couple more years at EA. So settle in, get your seatbelt on, get ready, because we're not done just yet.
Yeah, wonder what EA's got for us left.
Probably a whole lot of nothing. The third story here, we got a lot of CD Projekt Red and Cyberpunk stuff, obviously, because this is a never-ending story. Yeah. But this was a very interesting development that we got here. So CD Projekt Red has released a statement from studio co-founder, try not to mess his name up, Marcin Iwinski, in which he offers a personal explanation of what happened in the days leading up to the game's release. So they shed some light on on how there could just be such a massive disparity between the PC and console versions. The team also hinted at when the full next-gen versions will be ready. And so we'll include a link down below to the statement so you can hear everything he has to say. But basically he says not to blame the teams for what happened. He apologizes. He says that the technically complex nature of the game led to a lot of the issues. And he gets into pretty hardcore developer talk of exactly what they were doing, which led to all the issues technically that the game has. And in particular, he says that the main culprit for the issues was related to how the team had to constantly improve the in-game streaming system for old-gen consoles. And he had some very interesting insight as to how all this played out and somehow how QA didn't pick up on it. And he seemed to not necessarily blame them, but put a little bit more culpability on specifically how the process was done in conjunction with how QA was doing their process. And so that's how it wasn't caught. The hard drive bandwidth of the last-gen console was also apparently a constant challenge for the developer. So it was a very interesting statement he released. And what was most interesting to me was the fact that he didn't seem to put a lot of weight to specifically the timetable they had set. And how maybe there was some pressure from the publisher to get it out a little faster than it was obviously set for. And I didn't include too much information about it, but there has been another story kind of floating around about the fact that a lot of the developers who were working on the game originally were told that it was set to be released in 2022, not 2020. So it seems like though there was obviously technical issues that there was related to this, the timetable is what threw this game all off. It's just they didn't have the proper time with it. And obviously, with a game that had been in development as long as it was, it's important to note that there is a difference between them kind of saying that they're going to make a game, working on early assets, early pre-production stuff, and active development are different things. And so this game wasn't in active development as long as it needed to be, even though it was in the pre-production process and development cycle for many, many years. So this was a very interesting statement that we got from him. What were your thoughts when you heard this statement?
Yeah, so when a statement came out, I was watching, I'm listening to what he says because I was like, this is so weird because they've come out with blog posts. They came out with all their giant yellow card statements since the game's released. But they're infamous now for that color yellow. I was like, wow, this is so weird. And I'm watching it and I'm listening to what he said. I've seen a few interviews with him before on a different show about like Witcher 2 and Witcher 3 and what he was talking about. Quality, our consumers' quality. And stuff that we love to hear. We love, the game will be released when it's ready. Then you just see this flip, and obviously I'm sure he had his lawyers read this, teleprompt that he was going to read constantly, because he did not want to admit that they knew the game was busted on old gen, really broken on old gen. But I could not help but realize some of the stuff he was saying was just legal jumble talk, and
exactly, yeah,
kind of BS to a lesser extent. The statements like, most of these QA didn't pick up on some of these bugs that most of you experience. I don't understand that, because if you just turn the game on, just launch the game, launch the game, and now you're retracting, because the first elevator bug that happens was universal. Like, everyone suffered from that. 95% of us suffered. What do you mean QA didn't pick that up? Who QA'd this game? And again, not to really get against QA, because they may have reported this stuff. Like, hey, look, here's this massive list of bugs in the first couple hours. And like he says, we and the board decided to release the game. So it's this really hurt the reputation. Really, CD Projekt got this crazy good rep just from one game. I don't know why people did that, why people hyped them up, why people hyped Cyberpunk up so high. So it's sad to see this. It is just kind of weird dodging of some of the stuff, because it's at the point that they just don't want to say, yeah, we knew the PlayStation 4 version was broken, we knew the base Xbox One version. We do things a little weird. We focused on the PC so much because they're such a more PC-centric company, which is fine, because Witcher 1's only on PC, Witcher 2 was only on PC for a long time, then it came to 360. Like, this is what they do, is the PC stuff. Then you have to bite the bullet and just release it on PC, and then listen, it'll come to consoles later. I don't understand why they didn't go that route, because giving at least to some people in a really good state and then giving it to everyone else would have helped. Like, I would still probably be playing this game a lot right now if it worked, if it was in its state. I don't want to play it. I don't want to do my second playthrough or the all under endings until the game's way in a more state they wanted us to be in. So there's just so much to unpack, and it's very sad to see this go. I think when, the way he's talking that the next gen versions won't be till the second half of 2021, I think that's too late. I think it'll be too late for people who bought the game already, because let's say summer and fall of 2021, we are assuming we're going to get some pretty big games. There's a lot of stuff announced for this year, and stuff hasn't fallen through. I don't have time to play Cyberpunk in the fall. Especially when I have things like Horizon's coming out at some point, Ratchet will be out at some point, and all these other games, third-party stuff are going to be coming out. Ubisoft's going to be releasing stuff. Activision's going to be releasing stuff. That second half of 2021 is usually when these companies thrive, and I don't have time. I don't think I'm going to have time, so I can go back and hope the Cyberpunk is fixed on the next-gen version. I think the next-gen version will probably be delayed until 2022. I think that might even help them. It's just, it sucks. It's a terrible thing, but I think this statement also had to coincide a little bit with the article that came out, Jason Schreider's article.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that. Yeah,
because he did. So Jason doesn't blame it, and feel what you want about him. He says he contacted them, told them that he was releasing the article on Friday, whatever that time that article came out, Thursday, Friday. And he says they didn't tell him that they were releasing this video statement. He would have waited to see what they had to say. So this video statement may, again, speculative, may have been a quick answer to, oh man, Jason's going to kind of out us. Jason had that article. He interviewed 20, some ex-employees, some current employees, stuff like that about the issues there. So there's a lot of, it seems like, damage control. But also, you have to figure, it's a month late. The game's been out. So, it's a lot of interesting stuff going on here, but at this point, as fans, most people have finished playing the game because it's just a single player game. We're almost just kind of watching the drama, which is kind of sad.
Yeah, and I mean, you raised some awesome points. Specifically, it's just a weird situation for them to be okay, the second half of 2021 is going to be when the next gen people are going to be able to get their proper version. But I would imagine by that point, a bulk of the people who are interested in Cyberpunk and have next gen machines would have been played that already. I mean, is it the most stable thing in the world? No, but can you play that game front to back on PS5 and Xbox Series X? Absolutely. So I would imagine a bulk of those people already played it already. So they're going to be in a weird position where like maybe somebody will jump in for 20 minutes an hour to see how the differences are. And like, oh, okay, let's see how this looks like on a proper PS5 version. But it is just a weird position that puts them in. And you also made a great point specifically talking about the fact that to accept that they rushed this process fully knowing about the state of the game upon launch would accept responsibility when it comes to those specific lawsuits. So yeah, there's a lot of legal games they're probably playing with this statement to do some PR spin while simultaneously not taking responsibility. Because again, there is no reality where QA didn't pick up on these. There's 100. I know they QA'd because this is a massive title. And I'm sure they reported all these issues because it's not like we're diving deep into the code. This is not like something that if you do some weird game-breaking thing where you jump into this weird section of the map that things kind of play about. No, just driving down the street within a couple hours into the game throws it all out of whack. So this is not something that any person, especially a paid QA person, would have not picked up on if you just play the game. Normally you will encounter a myriad of issues. This is not something you have to dive deep into the code for. So it seems like a whole lot, kind of like a nothing burger, they say, where it's a whole bunch of word salad where he's saying all these things without simultaneously taking responsibility. And at the end of the day, it's not that complex of a situation. We all know what happened, which was this game needed more time in the oven, and they were not willing to give them that time. And they're like, does it work enough? And it's like, okay, well, we already promised that the last gen versions are going to come out. We have all these versions coming out. We already pushed it off. So screw it. We'll just put it out. And naturally, this is the reaction you're going to get when most of the players, they're probably going to play this game at launch, were not next gen people because a lot of the next gen devices are so hard to find. And you basically told 80% of your player base, screw off, it doesn't work. Like, and then on top of that, there was a whole like preview build thing where they were not either allowing people to speak about it or not sending last gen builds to people. So they were even aware about it before launch, because if they weren't, they would have readily sent PS4 versions to people, but they consciously didn't. Why? Because they knew it wasn't working.
They knew it didn't work.
So man, they're gonna get hit like a mofo with this lawsuit, and they're probably gonna have to sell. They're probably gonna have to settle a whole bunch, and it's gonna be a very expensive affair for them. And I hope they come out on the other side, because I'm really quite excited for those DLC, because I love Cyberpunk, but they need to get their affairs in order, and there has to be accountability for the bad choices that they made. And I put all of this on upper management. I do not put this on the developers, because developers will do what they can in the time that you give them. If it doesn't come out in the right thing, and you can't tell me that CD Projekt Red doesn't have an incredible pool of talent there. I mean, they made The Witcher, which is a phenomenal game. So that just tells me, the timetable was all out of whack. Jason Schreier basically exposed the specific timetable that the developers thought they were working on. So if they thought it was 2022, no ish that in 2020 it's not going to work right. If they expected to have another 2 years of incubation time, no wonder it doesn't run super well, because they're probably playing around with assets, doing really ambitious things in the world to see what can click and what can work. And okay, now let's play with stability. But you didn't give them the stability time, so they probably threw a whole bunch of stuff into there that were not going to work really well, maybe only on the highest rig systems. And you kind of downscale it from then. So I put all this on upper management. The person who included this statement included that I put this on them. This is their fault.
Yeah, and it's obvious, because it's just to get this game and this scope out so quickly. And I know people are like confused. Oh, the game was in development since 2012. I mean, it was in pre-production in 2012, I guess, when it was announced. But Witcher 3 wasn't even out yet, guys. So obviously that was forefront. This is probably gonna impact they are working on another Witcher game, whether it's 4, I don't know what they're doing exactly. That's obviously gonna be put on hold, because they probably have all hands on deck for this game. It's weird. It's weird.
I think they're gonna lose a lot of money on this game.
You're gonna lose a lot of money on this game. Even some of their statements going back when I reread it again, and some of the stuff they've been saying, it's like, guys, you guys gave the date April 2020. We didn't. No one asked for that. You guys said the game was gonna be ready then delayed it, then delayed it, then delayed it. So it's like, so you guys knew it wasn't working. There's no, in a perfect world, I would love to go back and I guess it's more just the I don't know, evil side of me. I would love to go back and see what this game would have looked like if they released it in April.
Oh yeah, pre-COVID,
pre-COVID, like you guys said, this game would have been like, this was the release date. I only imagine the just busted game we would have got.
I would imagine it'd be similar. The only difference is the next gen versions probably wouldn't have worked either. They would have had less time with the PS5 and Series X. Maybe more time with the Series X, but maybe, who knows? Maybe there would have been a bigger discrepancy between the Series X and PlayStation 5 versions.
This is where it gets iffy though, because like, oh, we were more proud of what the PC version that we released. I played the PC version I played about 5 hours on the Xbox Series X, on the Xbox One version, obviously. Immediately went and bought it on PC. Played it for whatever. I played it for about an hour and so, because I had to make sure just in case I needed my refund. And the game was not that different. And my PC is not like top of the line, but I guess my PC, I had someone look at it, they're like, oh, you're good, you're in the top like 20% of like good PCs you have that should run this game. So the game wasn't that good. It was at the point where I was like, well, I already own it on Xbox, so I refunded my PC version. So how proud were you? What were you looking at that you were so proud of your PC version?
Yeah, they must have been running this on the most powerful rig possible. Because from what I understand, the people with the super high-end graphics cards that have been like the 3080s and stuff like that, and again, I'm not a super PC guy, but from what I understand, there's like really high-end graphics cards. Those guys, from what I understand, have front-to-back pretty good experiences. That it runs pretty well. They're not dealing with the crashes and stuff like that. But again, those, just like the next gen devices, are not easier to get your hand on. They're very that a lot of people, the bots buy them up, and on top of that, they're pretty expensive. So
just released as well.
Yeah, so you're kind of in a position where a vast amount of people who were interested in this game are unable to play it. Most people don't have PS5s, most people don't have Xbox Series X's, and most people don't have 3080s, 3070s, or whatever. So a good chunk of the base are going to be, medium to high spec PCs and PS4s and Xbox Ones. And PS4s and Xbox Ones are 2013 devices. So naturally, it's very obvious where they're like, you develop for the lowest common denominator and scale up. Unless you have a super, really scalable engine where that can play for everybody, which exists, like a Fortnite, for example, that you could just run that on anything. The highest end, the lowest end, everything runs. But it seems like, for example, like with the Xbox ecosystem, since you still have to play with the One, you make sure it works on the One, and then you kind of scale it up for the next-gen devices, add some more assets, some ray tracing, higher resolution textures, and stuff like that. So you're kind of developing for the lowest common denominator. But it seems like maybe CD Projekt Red kind of had the opposite approach, where they developed for the highest end thing and tried to downscale it. But the downscaling took time that they didn't seem to give their development team. And so they ended up in a position where the high end stuff will run it. But and I think it'll run it, but I don't think this game runs amazingly, like 120 frames per second, 4K native. I don't think that exists anywhere. I might be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure this game doesn't seem like it's been really like perfectly optimized anywhere. And that's a real shame, because again, I think this is a really, really great game. And I hope that this can turn around for them, but they obviously have a crazy uphill battle to fight with, not only the legal thing, and not only getting this game working for a bulk of their player base, but on top of that, they also made a crap ton of promises related to the game, specifically towards that DLC and that next-gen version. So they have so much to do right now, and I mean, most teams wouldn't be able to do all that. So, and I don't know necessarily where to put CD Projekt Red, because there's such a newer name to throw around into this higher echelon. I mean, you go back 5 years ago, they are not part of this specific narrative. Everybody, I mean, people liked Witcher 3, and people started throwing their names around that. But when you're talking about the high echelon teams, the Naughty Dogs and the Gorillas and the 343s and stuff like that, I don't know if CD Projekt Red is being thrown up there with them. They're kind of up-and-comers. Even though they've been around for some time, they obviously made a massive jump with that Blood and Wine DLC fixing Witcher 3. Yep. So it's just, I don't know what the range of their capabilities and what financial hit they can buffer and they can take. I don't know, and I just really hope they're able to make it out on the other side, because I would hate for this to tank them to the point where either they need a massive restructuring or they need to be bought out, and that could change the trajectory of what they're able to do in the future. That would be a shame.
Yeah, that'd be terrible. Sad. So I mean, we hopefully this is the last CD Projekt Red Cyberpunk story for a little bit.
Yeah.
Until some of these hot fixes come out. They gave a timeline. You know, I think by the end of January we should get a major patch. Then the other patch should be in February, stuff like that. So we'll
Thoughts
see.
and prayers.
We'll keep an eye on them and hope for the best. Hope this works out and we can stop having these conversations. So our last story for today is some PS5 release date news, which were sort of released prematurely and stuff like that. So after revealing a suite of release dates for a number of third-party PS5 exclusives during its CES 2021 keynote, Sony has quietly removed the info from its uploaded trailer. Earlier this week, Sony's CES conference introduced us to some unexpected information thanks to a sizzle reel that included footage from a number of upcoming PS5 games, with release dates tacked on to the end of the trailer on a last final splash screen. So first it said like Uncharted and Last of Us footage was captured on PS4 because there were some people confused about that. It did say that on there. But we got some dates for some games that were reorganized. So Capcom's Pragmata, which that's the Spaceman game, right?
That's the one that kind of looks like a Kojima game. That's
Kojima.
Not.
So that's pushed back to 2023, which is pretty far. Square Enix's Project Athia, which we've seen nothing on anyway, is pushed out to January 2022. Stray, which that cat game, I remember that one.
That game looks awesome.
It looks great. October 2021, so that's this fall. I think that game just had a general 2021 date. I think they just solidified it, I guess.
Yeah.
Kenneth Bridge of Spirits now says March 2021, which I know the game was delayed. I don't remember if this is where it was delayed to originally. I don't remember the original.
God, I'm praying that's true, though.
I hope so. I can't wait for that. Solar Ash, that's the Hyperlife Drifter game, correct?
Yep.
That is now June 2021. Little Devil Inside, July 2021. Ghostwire Tokyo, October 2021, which fits very well. I think that's a perfect time to release that game. Then Ratchet and Clank and Horizon Forbidden West still just got the vague 2021. So some of these stuff wasn't too restructured. I think they were mainly just worried about some of the stuff that like got pushed to 2023 and stuff like that. I think I'm just curious. Do you notice what's missing on this list?
I mean, obviously God of War's not there, but
yep.
Is that you're talking about?
God of War
technically
still has a 2021 release date.
Yeah.
Nobody believes it.
No,
I don't believe it. You don't believe it. I think it's funny that you're announcing games that are releasing 2023 and stuff like that, and you gave us a logo. You told us that the game was coming 2021. I don't believe it. Obviously, I think 95% of the people don't believe that game's coming out this year.
God of War was 2018 that came out?
That was 2018.
That needs at least a 4-year development cycle to release.
That's what I keep saying. That's why I'm so confused on that last PlayStation 5 conference or wherever it was, State of Play, where they showed that logo. I mean, at this point, if that game was releasing, they would have shown us something. We've seen some good, decent gameplay pieces of Ratchet. We've seen some Horizon stuff, but Horizon's a cross-gen game.
Horizon
Ratchet
might even slip to 2022. I wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't be surprised either, just the nature of it. I just think it's weird. People are kind of ignoring it that God of War was not talked about at this. And I know it was just a quick splash screen and stuff like that, but I mean, guys, they're talking about games coming out 2023. Pragmata's in 2023.
There,
and they're not going to talk about their, the big three games they keep talking about that they're releasing this year, quote unquote, is Ratchet, Horizon, God of War. God of War was completely silenced here, not mentioned, not logo shown, nothing. So I think it's interesting. I'm not too beat up about any of these dates. I think that fits well. I think thinking of some of the third-party stuff that it's going to be fitting in, I can't play everything, but I think at least it'll help me spreading this stuff out a little bit.
Yeah, I like this timetable. Most of these games I'm going to play for sure. Super excited to finally get some semblance of an idea that at least someone, because obviously this is not a leak, this is not a fake, this is just information I don't think they plan on publicizing quite yet. Maybe that was something they wanted to do, like a PlayStation state of play. Maybe that's when they planned it on doing this. and so this information wasn't supposed to go out quite yet. But yeah, I'm glad to kind of have a rough idea of where like Kina's gonna fit, where Stray's gonna fit. Stray is one of the ones that I'm really looking forward to in October, and then obviously Ghostwire, having those both in October, that means that this fall is gonna be awesome, and I'm really excited about that. And Ratchet, I mean, if I want to guess, this is just unsubstantiated guess on my part. In my guess, I'm gonna think it's a summer game. I think Ratchet and Clank summer. So I'm thinking June, July, maybe, that they throw Ratchet and Clank in there. Solar Ash is June 2021, but I don't think they're afraid of stepping on Solar Ash. I think that's very different games that they're going for there. So, and Little Devil Inside. Again, none of these are like massive blockbusters that I think they're scared of stepping on. I think they will have their own fan bases. So if I had to guess, I think Ratchet might be a summer thing to give it real time to. Now that all the teams, I feel like, so we're gonna in a weird flux period with the whole vaccine situation, and so over the next few months, up until probably around June-ish, some people are gonna get vaccines. It's gonna kind of go back and forth, and we'll see. And so society's gonna be in an adjustment period of getting back, and a lot of these teams are gonna be getting back. And so that's, I think, where we're gonna get the adjustment period of where these timetables are gonna sit, because obviously some of these games that during the COVID era may have been 6 months out, once you're able to get people back in the office, might be able to accelerate to 4 to 3 months or something like that, to more classic timetables. So, some of these games that we thought were going to be way farther off might be able to come out a little earlier if they're able to get a bulk of their team back on site. Because I know some game studios or some jobs are able to work really good remotely. I don't know how game development works remotely. I know, for example, the GTA team was able to do Cayo Perico, the Heist DLC, completely from home. So it's not impossible to, do these entire projects from home. Obviously, we've had releases during the COVID era that at least a good chunk of their development cycle had to have been at home, since the fact that we've been, at stay-at-home orders damn near since, March or something like that. So
that's when full-fledged quarantine.
Yeah, so a lot of these teams, as they come back, a lot of these dates make a lot more sense to me, and they'll be able to get out in that time. And I'm just curious as to what Sony marketing planned with this. Like, I don't necessarily understand some of the game industry's aversion to having certain pieces of information out. And obviously, I understand to some degree it's like delay culture. Like, nobody likes delays, and so if you don't advertise a date, delaying it won't cause any problems. Like, for example, Lego Star Wars, they don't put out an official date, so technically it's never been delayed.
Yeah, true. That's true.
So that might be part of it. But I mean, hey, if you put out your own conference and there's a whole bunch of dates of things that are coming out that we already know you guys have relationships with, you've already shown off these games. Like, I don't think it's a massive deal that they're out there, and if they get delayed, they got delayed. I mean, 2020 was the year of delays. I don't think we're gonna lose our minds over finding out that Stray might get pushed a couple months. So yeah, I'm really excited about these timetables, and I'm just really curious to see where the first party stuff fits in with all this and what Sony's looking like, because Sony was able to do an excellent job even through the COVID era, keeping that first party output pretty consistent and very high quality stuff. I mean, Miles Morales was phenomenal. So I'm curious to see how 2020 does for them, and if they were able to do this in 2020, I could only imagine what they're going to be able to do in 2021 with actual people back on site finally.
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting year. We'll see how this works out. And the big point you said is like some of these didn't even have dates. Why solidify it? I don't know why Sony. I mean, I know Sony's at CES regardless, but it's usually talking about TVs and stuff. I don't know why they. Obviously, they're going to talk about the hardware. Why even show? Why not do a splash screen or a compilation of the games you released already, Demon's Souls, stuff like that? Especially since not many people have PS5s. Why not? Don't focus on the stuff that's coming yet until it's ready. Yeah. But at the same time, it's always easier to announce like a 2023 date and then be like, yeah, guys, it's ready. We can release it 2022. That works well, which doesn't happen too often. I remember Resident Evil 6 did that years ago, but I don't really remember anything. I don't really remember anything else.
Yeah, the only guess that I could make, because of the nature of the way they release these dates, the fact that, again, it was just attached to a little sizzle reel or something like that, and the nature of the games that they chose for here, that just tells me that this was probably a sizzle reel where it wasn't supposed to be a reveal of anything. Thus why they took it down. That this is probably just something that beat out a state of play that was supposed to be announced already. That is my guess. Is that they were supposed to probably be maybe something at the top of the year that let us know all this information. So when they included it on a little sizzle reel, it was no big deal. They're just confirming what we already knew. But the fact that it, in such a nonchalant way, was attached, and they're like, "Oh crap, take it down," that tells me that something on the marketing side probably got delayed, and they either forgot to take it out, or this was the wrong thing entirely. But it's very interesting, and it's exciting news for PlayStation players. But again, a lot of these are, I think, also going to be available at some point on Xbox as well. From what I understand.
Yeah, some of them are, I think Project Athia is like a 2-year exclusive to PlayStation 5.
A lot of times exclusivity.
I don't know, that's weird. But
Square Enix has some very interesting relationship going forward with PlayStation that is reminding me a lot of the PS1 era, where they had that very close. And obviously the PS1 era was very, very different because they were literally jumping ship from Nintendo to PlayStation. But it's very interesting that branding thing. And I feel like obviously 7 Remake was kind of the start of that. And going forward, the fact that 15 is going to be a proper exclusive is pretty nuts. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see where these games ultimately settle down. But I think we can both agree that 2021 is obviously going to be a banger of a year. And a lot of people, I'm sure, pushed their games from 2020 to 2021 for delays, and some people just didn't want to release during a pandemic. I understand that is certainly a thing too. People just don't want to put their game out during that time. So we're gonna get a lot of stuff probably this year. A lot of stuff that was meant for last year. Maybe some stuff that they thought would have to get pushed off a little farther that maybe get moved up now that they're able to get the manpower. So it's gonna be a very exciting year, and I'm really excited for it. And I'm just hoping for a lot of people that they're able to get their hands on next gen machines finally, and they're able to hit the production demands. So people can actually play these games and properly good piece of hardware, because the next gen games are starting. They're coming. Medium's right around the corner, and I think that's a proper Series X game. So the next gen titles are starting. Additional to the launch titles, they're actually starting to come out. So it's exciting times.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, we have Medium. Returnal, I think, is right around the corner as well. I think that's March for PlayStation 5. I think it's a PS5 only. I might be on PS4 too. I don't remember.
The marketing at least makes it seem like it is. But I'm not sure.
So
the game looks excellent though.
We'll see. We're there. We're here.
All right.
2021.
So episode 39 of the podcast, we have not hit 50 yet. I can't believe that. Every time I look at the number, I'm like, it has to be higher than that. And then I look and I'm like, no.
We're almost there. We're at the cusp.
We'll get there. And I think in February, we're nearing our 1-year anniversary, too. So we might want to do a little subject on that on the podcast and do a little chat there. So for anybody who's been listening to the show for a bit, thanks for sticking with us. And we got more episodes for you guys coming. So that was the NeoVintage podcast. I'm Jabril, and I am with
Steve. Hope you guys enjoyed.
And we'll see you guys next week.